Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. Today is Wednesday, and on Wednesdays, I do my Q&A session where I basically answer your questions that you asked me from last week. And this week, I hate using this term. It's a cringe term for me, but today is going to be a banger. It is going to be a banger episode. I'm going to show some pretty amazing books because people ask me some pretty amazing questions. So I got to show some pretty amazing books to show to answer those questions. So I'm going to answer some of the questions that don't require any books to be shown first, and then we'll get into the big books. And there's going to be some really big, cool books. First question comes from Kevin Lambert. Hello. What do you think of Golden Age restored comic books? Sensation Comics in particular with Wonder Woman. Are they worth buying? So I've talked a lot about restoration, and I actually believe that restoration can be a good thing. And that's very contradictory to the common kind of belief now with restored books. A lot of people don't like restored books. They see it as the purple label of death and all that kind of thing. But I actually am very open to restoration because often, especially with the older books, they don't really present very well unless they are restored. And when I was younger, before there was CGC grading, what they would do is they would actually deliberately restore books. They would, you'd send them off, and a professional restorer would make the book look as great as possible. And if you look at a lot of older books, especially the ones that are the kind that would get graded or the ones that are more valuable, a lot of the copies are restored. I think anywhere from 30 to 40% of some books are restored. So restored books have a bad reputation nowadays, but it wasn't always the case, is my point. And generally what happens is you buy restored books at a percentage of the blue label. And generally when the blue label goes up, the restored value book goes up as well. So it's usually within that same percentage. So, if you invest $1,000 in a restored book and the unrestored book is worth $10,000, well, if that blue label goes up to $20,000, your restored copy probably goes up to $2,000. So you'd see the same percentage increase. So for me, I see restored books as having two major positives. One, being that you can get a book that presents better. That's key for me. I like that, book that looks good, especially in a slab. And, I appreciate the artwork. And the other thing is you can buy books that generally you wouldn't otherwise be able to afford. Often, especially with high-grade restored books, they sell for a fraction, like a really small fraction of the value of the blue label, usually 1/10. So that can be a really good opportunity to buy into a book. And I don't believe that restored books are always going to be a negative. So this might be the time when people hate it the most to buy restored books and, get into restored comics as a way of saving some money and getting a nice looking book. So that's my opinion on it. I'd like to hear people's feedback. Do you believe that the purple label is the purple label of death? I'd love to hear people's feedback. Next question comes from Brian Smith. Have you ever seen a copy of my favorite rarity, British Phantom Lady #1? Same as the US 19 cover, but a long, humble skirt has been added to spare the British boys of a sight of legs. No Phantom Lady content inside. I've never seen it listed anywhere. Now, I actually did some real searching because I'm a big Phantom Lady fan, and I could not find the book. I did not see it. I'm not sure where to find it, and I'm not really sure about it. So I did look a couple places. I looked at my comic shop. I'm wondering if it might have a different title, and that's maybe why I'm not finding it, but I couldn't find a copy of it. and I wasn't really sure what the what the book looks like. I mean, I know that it's similar to Phantom Lady 19, but still, I'm not really sure what to be looking for. So I couldn't find it. I checked on My Comic Shop, I checked on eBay, but couldn't find it. And even checked the census. I didn't see it. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It probably goes by a different title, and maybe it's probably like something something and then Phantom Lady #1. So I'm thinking maybe that's why I'm not able to find it. So sorry, I couldn't really give you much of an answer there, but I did try. Next question is from Martin Bow. Are you consider buying something for yourself for Christmas? And can you please show it off? Yes, I will, once it arrives. So I did buy something for myself. Actually, I won an auction over the weekend, a pretty major auction for a book that I've been wanting for a while now, but I never thought I would have the opportunity to buy. It is a low grade, but it is a cool book. It's Catman 28. And if you're not familiar with Catman 28, it's kind of like, it looks kind of almost like a magician on the cover. And it's got, it's an L.B. Cole cover, and it's got like this candle, and it's kind of a cool skull magician Catman cover. And it's probably considered one of the grails of the Catman run. So that I picked up on the weekend, and it's a really great presenting copy, even though it's a low grade. It's like a 0.5. And the reason it's been graded a 0.5 is it has brittle pages and, like spine split and stuff like that. But actually, it's complete. So I get a complete book, low price, lower price. It's still expensive. Even like a 0.5 is like a very expensive book. but at least it was affordable compared to, that book normally sells for maybe $1,500 per point. So just to give you a sense of how expensive it is. I managed to get that one, and that was my Christmas gift to myself. I told my family, don't get me anything. I don't deserve anything. I got my one big book. So that's how I'm doing that one. Okay. Now the next question comes from Lyle Hobson. Awesome Q&A, Alan. Exist or non-existing comics? I've been searching for issues number 5 and number 7 of Battlefire by Stanmore and Aragon Publishing. Some say that number 5 exists. Some say not. Number 7 is never mentioned. Can you shed some light on these publishers? Thank you, Alan. Okay, so I did look into this. Battlefire is a series I was not familiar with at all. But from what I can see, and I did check, issues number 5 and 7 are not known to exist. I'm not sure why they skipped the numbering, or if they actually are books that, got lost to history or whatever. But from what I can gather, those 2 issues do not exist. So, and so it basically ends at issue number 6. So that's the run. So yeah, sorry. That's all I could find out. Not really much, but something. Next question comes from 3 different people. And it's a bunch of, this one is kind of leading into a bunch of stuff. So this is where I'm going to show some pretty big books. I'm going to read all the questions and then kind of tell you like one big answer. Rezoner 13. I love your channel. I have 2.5 questions. Number 1, favorite Jack Kirby cover. And number 2, tips and tricks on getting rare, expensive books, how to find them, and how to be able to financially get them. Okay, so the first question I'll answer, and with a bunch of other people's questions, and then I'll get to the financial ones afterwards. The next one is in the same vein, so a bunch of people asked a similar question. So I'm just gonna. Black Box Silver and Bronze asked, really enjoy the history of Kevin Bald. Can you do a spotlight on Jack Kirby? Okay, so there was Jack Kirby, favorite Jack Kirby covers, and spotlight on Jack Kirby. So they kind of work together. And then the last question, which is kind of still related, what are these Kirby hidden variants that I've stated seeing for sale? Okay, so there's like 3 Jack Kirby questions. I don't know why Jack Kirby was inspired somehow in all this, but it's funny that people asked about Jack Kirby. So I'm going to answer about Jack Kirby and show some books. Finally, you've been waiting 10 minutes, almost 11 minutes to see some books. I'm going to get into Jack Kirby. So Jack Kirby was born Jacob Kutzberg, and he was born in 1917, so August 28th, 1917, and he died February 6th, 1994. And Jack Kirby actually was one of those artists that really got his start in the comic strips. In 1936 to 1939, he worked at the Lincoln newspaper syndicate, and basically he was doing like comic strips, and he actually did like this health panels, like it was like these self-help kind of tips, and his thing was your health comes first. It was like just a panel, and he would draw the little art in it and how to be, health tips basically. And at the time, he didn't really like using his Jewish name, so he used Jack Curtis as his name. And he kind of used that name a lot as his synonym for his name, or pen name, whatever. I'm trying to say. But then later, he got work at Iger House, Will Eisner and Bob Iger's house, where they basically would produce art for other publishers. And his very first comic artwork, I found out, was Wild Boy magazine. So if you ever find Wild Boy magazine, that would be Jack Kirby's first artwork. So I'm going to show some of the Jack Kirby stuff that I have. I brought like a ton. He's actually kind of known for a bunch of comic art, comic creations as well. He was the one that kind of was involved with the creation of Captain America, and he did it with Joe Simon. He was involved with creating Fantastic Four, Hulk, Ant-Man, and at one point he was the one that kind of left Marvel, and he went off and did his own thing where he created romance books. And he was kind of the one that kind of created that whole genre of the romance books. And he did that for Crestwood Publications. But he also created X-Men and Silver Surfer. And he also worked at DC for a while, where he created the New Gods. But he also created the Eternals in Marvel. So a lot of cool things about him. And he actually worked at Fox Publications for a while, where he did work for Blue Beetle, and he worked for Fawcett, where he worked on Captain Marvel. And when he was working on Captain Marvel Adventures, he was told, just mimic C.C. Beck. So kind of an interesting little thing about him. He is known as the King, and I'm going to show you why. So let's get into some of the books that he created. Okay, so Hulk, this is the first appearance of the Green Hulk. And, this is, one of Jack Kirby's most famous creations, the Hulk. So kind of a cool book. And another really popular character is Black Panther. Just another great character that Jack Kirby created. And this is his cover as well. So these are all Jack Kirby covers. Jack Kirby's style is kind of like very like actiony, I find, personally. And another character he created was Silver Surfer, and this is the first appearance of Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four 48. And one sec here. And I mentioned that he wasn't just an artist, by the way. He was also a writer. And when he worked at DC, he actually wrote the New Gods. So he did, this is his cover and also his story. So he did the cover with Vince Coletta. So that's kind of cool. And another series that I liked, I liked it so much that I bought the whole run, is Mr. Miracle. And it's very connected to the New Gods. So, and this is, again, Jack Kirby cover and Jack Kirby story. And again, he worked with Vince Coletta for this one as well. So, Mr. Miracle. Really great story, actually. Interesting. He's kind of like an escape artist. Kind of cool character. And actually, this one's quite an interesting book because it actually celebrates, if you see right there, that Kirby is now working for DC. So actually, the reason Kirby left Marvel, after really building Marvel to the greatness it has become, was due to the fact that he was having sort of issues where he wasn't getting the rights to a lot of, the books that he basically had created. And so there was arguments there, and he just felt like he wasn't being appreciated, so he left. So that's how he got over to DC. But he also, I feel like the New Gods was kind of like, a version of, his Eternals story as well. So he also created the Eternals, very similar characters in a way. So, you got the Eternals, and this is also a Jack Kirby cover. And then some other kind of big characters that he was involved with. I'm not sure if he created Loki, but I believe he did. But this is the first appearance of Loki. He also created Thor, so we got both here. So this is Journey into Mystery 84, or 85, which is the first appearance of Loki. And another character that he was involved with was Groot. So this is Tales to Astonish number 13, the first appearance of Groot. And this is Jack Kirby cover, plus I think it was Steve Ditko. So they worked together on this cover. It's kind of cool. So another character that I really like. And I don't really have much Golden Age Jack Kirby. Like, I wish I had some like Captain America. That would be really cool to have in my collection, but I don't. But I do have this book, which is another Jack Kirby creation, is Boy Commandos. So this is a Jack Kirby cover as well. So kind of cool. And actually, it's one of those few covers where you actually see, I'm going to zoom in as much as I can, if you can see it, hopefully. It says Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. So Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. So kind of cool. I thought that was kind of interesting. And that's from 1942. So that's my earliest Jack Kirby artwork. And then we got another one that I always love this book. This is, even though this is not really a key book, but it is a key and as well. It's like kind of a blue chip, but there's no first appearances in it. But it's the first team appearance of the Avengers. Another Jack Kirby cover. So another great cover. So, yeah, and then another series that he was heavily involved with, X-Men. My copy is terrible. So this is my X-Men number 1. And just really rough grade, but you know, it is kind of cool that it is Jack Kirby cover and Stanley's story, of course. And then finally, we got a couple more here. We got Daredevil. This is another one that he was involved with. So we got, this is another Jack Kirby cover, and obviously Stanley's story. So Daredevil #1. And last but not least, Fantastic Four. To me, this one is the most one that he's connected to. When he would even sign his name, he would make his K, like the Kirby, look like a 4, so that he would sort of like always kind of have the Fantastic Four as being part of his actual signature. So this book is key to Marvel. Is the one that really got Marvel back in the game in terms of, you know, being a comic publisher and becoming really the dominant publisher of all. So this is Fantastic Four #1 from 1961. And if you're interested in seeing more Kirby covers, I'm actually gonna, because I was like, oh my goodness, that's a Jack Kirby, that's a Jack Kirby. I was like pulling out so many Jack Kirbys. I decided that this week on Friday, the cover challenge will be devoted to Jack Kirby. So stay tuned for Friday's video, where I'm going to just do my 10 best Kirby covers. So that is going to be pretty cool. Okay, so but to answer Mike Swintel's question about Jack Kirby, now recently they've been doing these like 1 in 50 and 1 in 100 covers, where it's basically like these Jack Kirby-esque covers, and they're sort of like just a variant. But personally, I don't really think they look that great. I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for saying that, but I don't really think they look the best. And the only one I thought looked okay was the Doctor Doom one. But there are different things like Fantastic Four, Thing, and all these ones that are just like variant covers. So, you know, you can look for them. All you have to do to find them is search on eBay for hidden gem variants, like Jack Kirby hidden gem variants, and you can actually buy them. They're usually anywhere from $10 to $20 range. So just so you know. And then to answer the second part of Rizoner's question, tips and tricks on getting rare, expensive books. Okay, so one of the tricks that I use is I buy a lot of Golden Age. So I'm buying kind of key Golden Age books. And sometimes I do get a big book for a good price, like a really, really good price. I did mention that I buy restored books, and that's one way of really getting cheaper priced books. But if you're trying to get a blue label and for a cheap price, sometimes Golden Age can present a really great opportunity. There's a few things going on with Golden Age. One is the prices are not really known for the most part. Often you don't see the books selling that often. You might see the same book like reappear like once every few years. And that creates a couple opportunities. One, it means that the established price of today is not necessarily known. And when people don't know, they kind of look at the last price. Well, the last price could have been 2008. You know, it could have been like whatever, how long ago it was that the last book came out on the market. So they'll roughly estimate based on, you know, current trends, but often, you know, who knows how much those books are really worth. That creates an opportunity where you can kind of get a book for a lower price than maybe it should be going for. Another thing with Golden Age books is because they don't come up very often, people don't know to expect them. So often if they get placed up on like an auction site or on eBay, and you know, you'd have to search for it to find it, and like often people are just not searching because they don't expect it to be on the market. So you can sometimes get a book where nobody will bid on it. just because they don't realize that it has come up onto the market. And I picked up some pretty great books that way, where I was surprised that nobody bid. But I think if people had known that those books were available, they would have totally bid, and it would have been a very expensive book. So it's really what I recommend if you like Golden Age. That these kind of tricks can really help, because what you have to do though is create your list of books that you really, really want. And what I'll do is I'll create alerts on eBay. I'll create alerts on Heritage. I'll create alert on my comic shop. And I will create alerts on any other sites that allow for alerts. And anytime such a book comes up, I get a notification and I pick it up. I just picked up a rare Soti book. Like literally there's less than 6 known to exist for $100. It was 175 actually. I was trying to downplay it a bit, but it was, it was a good price. It was a low grade, obviously, but it's a kind of a cool book. The same book in the same grade, actually, strangely, somebody else bought a copy of it, and it just came up on eBay, and it sold for $300. Same grade. I was like, wow, I was so lucky that I picked it up by having the alert and being aware of it before other people were. So I bought it within 2 minutes of it being up. Actually less than that, probably like a minute. Like I acted fast because I knew that if anyone had alert set up as well, they'd probably pick it up because it's such a rare book. So those are the kind of things that I do. It can also apply for the modern books as well, that you can do these kind of alerts and kind of look for things, but always have a list that you can work from and keep on searching on that list. So a little bit of advice. Okay. The last part of that actually is, how can I financially afford them? Well, often I can't. I was actually getting a bit of a debt going, and that's a whole different story that I'm going to actually talk about next year. I'm going to explain my whole crazy story about how I overspent, and don't ever do that, by the way. Always stay within a budget. So, but I will get into that next year, and I'm going to explain why later. So look forward to that in the new year. I'm going to explain my crazy life. Okay, so the next question. So that was like a really long answer. I want to make sure I said everything about Jack Kirby. He's such a great artist. Yeah, I pretty much did. Okay, next question comes from Polly76. Your Gerber Guide Q&A was fascinating. Are you familiar with the artist Stanley Artgerm Lau? Do you have any of his covers in your collection that you can show? I avoid modern Marvel and DC, so I was unaware of his work. I recently picked up AXE, which is actually Avengers versus Eternals, I believe it is. Judgment Day #6, because the Dazzler cover was so great. Thanks. Okay, I actually picked up that same book, and I will show it because I do like Artgerm, and actually have a pretty good Artgerm collection. Maybe I'd say about 30 or 40 Artgerm covers. However, there is a however on that. A lot of them are buried, and it's almost impossible for me to get to them. And there were some really great ones that I would love to show. And if you ask that question maybe next year, I know it sounds weird to say next year because, I mean, it's a month away. When I'm moving, and a lot of my stuff is kind of in chaos right now. But I did manage to find a few Artgerm covers that I could show, and I apologize that I can't show all the covers that I have because I really do have a great Artgerm collection. One of my favorite Artgerms is actually his Scarlet Witch. Really great Artgerm cover. Okay. This is the one that he was mentioning, though. This is the Dazzler one. Isn't this? It's so great. This is Judgment Day #6. Just a really great. I like the Dazzler. She's such a funny character. Kind of hokey, but cool at the same time. Kind of sexy. So this is the Dazzler Artgerm variant. And then another great one is Wildcats #1. It's another great Artgerm variant. And I generally pick up, if I see that there's an Artgerm variant for whatever, whatever comic, I will generally pick up those those covers. And he does lots of really sexy, beautiful girls, so totally my cup of tea. So and then we got last one is Tiger Division. It's kind of a cool book too. This is Tiger Division #1, the Stan Artgerm Lau cover. So that's it. Those are the only, as I said, I have way more, but those are the only ones I have handy. Sorry. But I will show, maybe I'll do an artist spotlight in the future on Artgerm where I can show more covers. Okay, next question comes from, I'll leave this last one. There's a really great question. I'll leave it to the end, but I'll get to it. Mr. E, the low-grade king, asked, I was wondering if you had any comics from Volunteer Comics. The only titles that I know they published were Volunteer Summer Lineup, 1996, Volunteer Comics Winter Lineup, 1996, Battle Cry from 1997, and Tombstone Blues or Dead Girls Need Love 2, #1 and 2 from 1997. If you have some, can you show them? And also, if you know of any other titles that they published, can you share that on your next Wednesday Q&A? Love the video. Okay, so I looked into this publisher. So this is Volunteer Comics. You just mentioned all their titles. These are actually all their titles. I did search. One of the tricks that I do, if I ever want to find out what a publisher, like all the books that they produced, I go to mycomicshop.com. And what I'll do is, if I know a particular book that a publisher produced, I'll search that book. And then on that book, you can click on the publisher, like it's linked. And then it will show all the books related to that publisher. And you basically listed them all. So, so there are no more other books related to this publisher. But when I because I wasn't familiar with this publisher, when I saw the Tombstone Blues or Dead Girls Need Love 2, I thought, wow, that's such a me kind of cover. Like it's like these kind of like zombie-like books, just sexy zombies. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna totally buy that. They didn't have it on my comic shop, but I went on eBay and picked up #1 and 2. So they are in the mail. So maybe in a future unboxing you will see those, but not for now. But yeah, definitely cool. Okay, next question comes from Open by Chance. And he wrote, I would like to see some of your favorite Blackthorn Publications. So Blackthorn Publications is a small publisher, but they did produce a lot of really cool books. I don't necessarily collect Blackthorn Publishing, but I collected one artist that just happened to do the covers at Blackthorn Publishing. And that is Dave Stevens. So I'm going to show you 3 books that I have from Blackthorn Publishing that are Dave Stevens. And the first one is Planet Comics. Just a really great cover. And actually, I can think of one more that's from this publisher that's Dave Stevens as well, but I didn't bring it. But this is Planet Comics #1, and it's like an homage to the original Golden Age Planet Comics. So that's kind of cool. And then we got Sheena 3D, another Dave Stevens cover. These are really, I really love Dave Stevens art. I think he does some of the best good girl art ever. So I really like him. And then we got another Sheena book, and it's Jungle Comics. Again, this is sort of like, redoing the Golden Age Jungle Comics. It's got the same kind of, header, So it's kind of cool. I really like this one. So big fan of Dave Stevens. I have all of his covers that he ever did. And there's like a lot of them. There's like over 100 it seems. I think there's like something crazy like that. It's like, so it's a full short box of Dave Stevens artwork. So I collect Dave Stevens. But those are my favorite from Blackthorn Publishing. Masthead is the word I was looking for. Okay. Sorry. I get bothered by my own forgetfulness. Okay. And I believe there's just one. Okay, so Mike Swintel actually wanted me to mention that this is a question plus request. I see many people who collect Golden Age comics and are also moving into collecting these pulp magazines. I just want to warn people that some of the photos in the old detective magazines are so horrible and uncensored, they will haunt you for life. Being a comic book reader, I picked up a few of my mom's detective magazines for a real uncensored photos of bodies of murder victims that would never be allowed in the worst Japanese hentai magazines. Please warn people this exists. So, whenever I, feel like I'm warning somebody, do not read this book, you know what's going to happen? People are going to go out and try to read those books. I don't know why. That's the way it works. So I don't believe in censorship. And generally, if you like reading some crazy stuff, yeah, go ahead. I'm not, I know that there's some pretty, I collect Sally the Sleuth, which is from the Spicy Detective series from the 30s. And there are some crazy like crazy panels that they do for Sally the Sleuth. Just nothing that would have been redone in even the Golden Age during even the craziest parts of the Golden Age. So it's amazing some of the stuff from the 30s is even more risque than like the stuff that we'd even see today. So just it's very interesting though. So I figured I'd read his PSA, and you can do with it as you wish. The next question and the last question, and I kind of want to finish on this last question because it's a big one, is A Supertramp wrote, question for next week. What's your top 5 Batman books in your collection? Okay, so I figured I'd leave on a high note, and I actually didn't do 5. I figured, hey, 5 is not enough. I'm going to show you a bunch of Batman books that I have in my collection, and I'm going to do it in reverse order. I'm not going to say one book is bigger than the other or anything like that. I'm just going to do reverse order of my Batman collection, and purely Batman, not detective, not Catwoman, not, but Batman title. So we're going to start with Neil Adams' homage cover, which is Batman 227. Okay, it's kind of a cool Batman book, and it's in a 5.5. Okay, and then we got another Neil Adams. This is Batman 189. Nice Silver Age book. This is the first Silver Age appearance of the Scarecrow. Kind of cool. And then we got Batman 155, which is the first appearance of the Penguin in the Silver Age. I always like this because it's the big dragon. So kind of cool. And then we have this is Batman 139, which is the first appearance of Batgirl, the original Batgirl, and then they came out with a different Batgirl later. But this is the first Batgirl in Batman, if that makes sense. So this is 139. And actually I have a lot more Batman books that are just raw, but I didn't bring it. I only brought my slabbed ones for this showing. So this is a Batman 121, and this is the first appearance of Mr. Freeze. Now in this, he's not called Mr. Freeze, he's called Mr. Zero. and it was later that he was actually, his name got changed to Mr. Freeze. But this is his first appearance. So Batman 121. And then we get Batman 49. We'll get into the Golden Age now. So that was, the Batman 121 was kind of Atomic Age. It's kind of a weird book. Yeah, this is the first appearance of Vicky Vale and also the Mad Hatter. So kind of a cool book. Batman 49. And then we got Batman 47. And this is the origin retold of Batman. It's kind of cool. And it also has, it's kind of a cool cover too. It's the first detailed origin of Batman. And then this one, you'll see actually in a future unboxing. It's kind of weird. I actually got this, but it's one of my raw comics that I will be showing. Is Batman number 42. And it's the first Catwoman cover in the Batman title. Not her first cover ever, but it's her first Batman cover appearance. I always like these ones where they kind of flip the book kind of thing. I always like that. So that's Batman 42. And this is Batman 35. This is actually the first time we see Catwoman in the modern version. So this is the first modern version of Catwoman, Batman 35. Before that, she always had the stupid cat mask. And so we got Batman 22. This is the first Alfred solo story. And Alfred's skinny in this one. He used to be fatter, I think. So this is Batman 22. I think it's Origin of Alfred. What does it say? No, it just says Alfred solo stories begin, Catwoman and Cavalier appearances. Okay, so kind of cool. And last, so as I said, these are in reverse order. My last is my Batman number 3, which is the first appearance of Catwoman in costume. So kind of a cool book. So Batman number 3, restored book. So you asked me about restored Golden Age books. Well, this is a restored Golden Age book, and it presents well. So I like it. So that's that has been my Q&A for this week. If you have a question that you want answered, please leave a comment below, and I will do my best to answer it. And I appreciate everyone watching these really long Q&A videos. I got to learn how to condense it a bit. But thanks for watching. And please leave a comment below, like, share, all that stuff. Actually, please share this video with other people that might be interested in either Jack Kirby or Batman or any of the other questions that I answered. So thanks again for watching. Bye for now.